consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission: to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
So what we've done, unfortunately, in our culture as Americans is we have bought into the belief that we're not being lied to by the modern media, that we're not being lied to by our government. And I think, it's not about the media, it's not about the government, we've allowed that. We've stopped taking ownership, we've stopped taking personal responsibility for how our life is going, and we have waited for someone to save us. We have waited for someone to tell us how to live our life. Because, if we go back into the school systems, right, we see that we've been programmed from day one to wait for someone else to give us permission to succeed. So unfortunately, in this case, I don't think that there isn't hope. I don't think that we've gone too far. I don't ever believe that that's possible, because when we talk about quantum consciousness, all potential realities exist, and enough of us actually wake up to the fact that we are creating our reality, we can shift the tides.
That's my argument exactly to my daughter. It's not by going there out in the streets and resisting with the banners that you're going to win this fight.
Yeah.
You need to get to that critical mass of people who are awakened to what is actually going on.
Yeah.
And then that shift is going to go quickly.
But your daughter and her friends, they think they are those people.
Probably, but I
so
tell her
we all think we're those people, right?
Yeah.
But the vast the vast majority of people are lemmings.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues. Is you can't even go out to dinner without the person with you going, "Well, what are you ordering?" What the hell difference does that make? Please yourself, and forget about trying to get some of my pie. literally my
fork
pie
goes across the table.
Yeah. Oh my God. So that's a part of it. There's also a part of, I think it's a natural thing. Most people want to plug into Gabi's virtual reality machine. They don't want to deal with this stuff because it's ugly. It means change. It means work. It means, all these things they're not used to doing. It's all outside of their comfort zone.
It's you are Neo taking the blue pill. Was it blue pill that took you out of the matrix?
Just wanting to stay in there.
Yeah. So it's partly fun to talk about this stuff. Gabi was doing his best to burst my bubbles.
Is that what was happening?
You heard those sounds? There's no hope. It's past the point of no return. Well, you know what? This is because, in our questionnaire for scheduling this, we ask, what's the message you're sharing here? And this leads right into that. And your answer to that was extreme self-awareness as a means to pure manifesting power.
Yeah.
So I would love to go down that rabbit hole a little bit if you guys are up for that.
Totally.
I know Gabi's up for that.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything starts with our personal beliefs, and our attachment. What are we attached to in the form of identity, in the form of people pleasing, in the form of our phobias that is standing in the way of us actually having a life that we would truly love to live? From the second people wake up, they're blaming coffee for not being awake. So don't talk to me, I have to have my coffee, right? Or, my boss is a jerk, so I'm only going to do the bare minimum at my job, right? Or, money is always scarce, so I have to spend it before I lose it, right? So we have these really super, super concrete beliefs that prevent us from actually creating the reality that we would truly desire and deserve. So, when I've got clients who will come to me who have health issues, and we find out that it has to do with their relationship, right? Because everything goes together. We have people who come in who, have a past injury or a past trauma, and it's manifesting in the form of lots of money, but horrible health or horrible, relationships with their partner. Everything works together. So the idea is understanding how to be aware of how one is showing up, first and foremost. When you understand how you show up in life, right, you understand my inner image versus my outer image, how other people see me, right, and how all these things work together, and then combined with the life image. And these are things that are being taught by Paramahansa Nityananda, but many of the gurus, but talking about all those different images, they have to be synergistic. If what's on the inside is very ugly, but what you project on the outside is beautiful and boisterous, there's not going to be a cohesion of the relationships that you have. You're going to wonder why you're always attracting losers or attracting people that take advantage of you, because deep down inside, you feel like a loser, right? So what we've got to understand is that if the world around us is a reflection of our inner reality and what we are projecting onto it, it becomes a school.
Mm-hmm.
So every single day is a lesson plan. What is my curriculum for the day? What conflict, what struggles, what obstacles am I facing on a consistent basis that are reflecting something inside of me that has yet to be resolved? What is still incomplete inside of me that I keep getting back in the form of relationships or struggles or crashing into walls? And why is it that I still buy into the belief that this is the only reality that's possible? So I personally, when I went to the University of Santa Monica, it's a spiritual psychology program. And I remember this girl got up and she said to the professor, you know, I appreciate the fact that Source is trying to teach me lessons, and I love these lessons, but I just want to know, why does it always have to be so hard? Why does it feel like everything stops dead in its tracks? And my professor said to her, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. And my jaw just dropped. I was like, wait, what are you talking about? And he said, when you ask for a lesson or you ask for something to change in your world, you can also say, and please deliver it in a way that is honoring and nourishing, and it'll allow me to continue my life. And I was like, man, that was good. I never thought that was possible. Because before then, I thought that in order for me to create something new, everything in my life had to collapse. So I used to get super, super sick, and I would create super much, like all this chaos in my job because I didn't have the worthiness to just leave. And so all these things would happen because I needed to have that chaos in my life. And when I realized that, I thought, you know what? If everything around me is a reflection of what I'm projecting, why am I projecting destruction? Why can't I see change as growth and abundance and a new awareness and an adventure? And so when I'm teaching clients about that level of self-awareness, I'm helping them to understand that the ecology, the way that all the things work inside of you from, you know, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, as those are working together, you start to see that there's this incredible flow that starts to happen. So instead of being you being the tornado, you become the eye of the storm. And you start to stand there and you're so grounded that you look around you and you feel like there's not a breeze or anything, but you see everybody else's tornadoes. And that level of self-awareness, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that ever hit me as far as manifesting power. Because when you're in the eye of the storm, there's such ease and grace. Because now, instead of the internal intentions that you're setting of, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, that are being woven into your prayers or your asking of the universe, right? God, please make me more money, but deep down inside, I really feel like crap, so please don't give it to me because I know I'm going to lose it anyway, right? Those start to disappear. And so the intention that you set into the universe or that you pray to God with, or Buddha or Allah, that prayer is very, very clear. And the universe or source consciousness hears it directly and delivers you exactly what it is that you ask for. But when those things are misaligned, what you get isn't always what you thought you asked for. And you start questioning, like, man, why am I so broken? Why am I so flawed? Why does God never hear my prayers? So I think that's probably the best explanation I can give for it.
I think it's a great metaphor, the tornado thing. And there's also, you know, we see it all the time. We're always asking. Right? We always want something else, and we're always asking, consciously or not, but that idea, again, we're not taught how to ask, right? There's plenty of people that will tell you, I mean, that's what all prayer is going out and asking God for something, right? But we're never taught how the right way to ask. And it's just what you said. If you can put some parameters on it. right? There's no guarantees you're going to get it. The universe is going to live within that all the time. But if you don't put parameters on it, it's going to come random, and it's going to hit you in the back of the head sometimes. So yeah, that's an interest, and it has been for me, has been a hard thing to remember, to kind of to add those parameters in for what I'm asking for.
Well, I don't mean to be unenthusiastic, right? But I mean, if a grown-up who's been exposed to all this destructive programming and learned mostly from pain and suffering, right, comes to you, all these programs, I mean, they've been running there for many, many, many years, right? How do you override this powerful influence, right? I mean, through what? How could you magically be able to sell it to them so that so that there is a shift? I mean, I know you're filtering them, right? So those, like you were saying, okay, will I be able to even work with this person or not, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, even if you do, right, and then there's some opening there and they're receptive to my message, right? I mean, still, overriding this requires hard work. We talked about this a little bit also yesterday, right, team? Repetition, self-affirmations, all of that is incredibly long. Would you say that there are shorter ways of getting there? Maybe shortcuts?
Yeah, the surrender. Mm. Most people think that in order for you to clear those things, that you have to do.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a beingness.
Mm-hmm.
So most people are so attached and AKA addicted to their story. They're
right.
addicted to their belief system. So I usually go about the process of explaining, and this is something that you can find in What the Bleep, the movie, but it literally shows in a really this cool cartoon-like way how when we experience an emotion, our brain produces a chemical, like a peptide essentially, right? It's a little protein. And that protein goes into our body and it clicks into a receptor site, and then it rushes a cell with the experience of the emotion. So it's not just a seeing or a feeling, it's a full sensation on a cellular level. Now, the problem is, when we experience these emotions on a consistent basis, when our cells replicate, they have more receptor sites for a particular emotion and less for joy, abundance, health, right. Things like that, right? So I explain this to people to understand that they've become addicted to their experience on a cellular level. Then I guide them over to the water experiments, which was done by Masaharu Emoto. Right? And Dr. Emoto discovered that you can actually set an intention with water. Now, if we think about the amount of water that is inside of our body and our consistent thoughts barraging our body with all of these negative energies, then the negative energy becomes the perfect conduit that's infusing our nervous system that literally destroys our ability to have power. So people literally have this powerlessness that becomes learned helplessness. And so I explain these to people because a lot of times just putting the scientific backing on why they're experiencing what they're experiencing, they feel a little less combative, they feel a little less defensive, and the ego doesn't need to arc up and prove its point of why they're such a victim. They understand that what they've been experiencing has been a program and that it is possible to get out.
Yeah. The book that I'm working on, one of the chapters is It's Your Choice, You Have No Choice. And it's basically about that and the idea that we're just carrying around these computers between our ears, and they are being programmed and reprogrammed 24/7. And a computer will spit out the same results from a program that you ask it to run every single time, unless you change either the program or the data that it runs on. And that's what we're dealing with. So we have to change the programming that's going on.
Yeah.
And
that's in the frontal cortex, right? But I mean, the programs are in the subconscious mind, and they're deep down there.
Not all of them.
Most, right? And it's hard to override them. So wouldn't be, say, something like, I don't know, like this is a hard process, but say hypnosis, right?
See, he's already made it hard by saying it's hard. You've declared it as hard. There's no hope now.
I mean, these people, I understand you're making the scientific point, right? You're selling that to them. I've seen people who went away and came back with the scientific research contradicting my data. Mm-hmm. Because for every theory, there is like a counter theory where they're debunking, I mean, I recently somebody gave me a book that was debunking Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and they went from chapter to chapter, just completely destroying him,
Because they've got nothing better to do with their lives, right?
So those people who like resist, they will find proof why they're resisting to support the theory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, everybody's got their own reality, and we're all right.
Yes.
We're all right. Mm-hmm. So back to choice. What do you want your reality to be? What do you want to be right about?
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, it's like, do I have to be right? Do I need to be right? Do I need to make other people see my point of view? Mm-hmm. Or can I just love them for however they show up? To me, it goes back to something I learned with Abraham Hicks, which is the concept of trust. Most people have a huge trust issue, but it has nothing to do with anybody outside of them. It has to do with the fact they don't trust themselves. Yeah. Straight up, So at the end of the day, it's like they make all these promises, they can't keep them, and they know they can't be trusted to make the right decision. So they just kind of live complacently and in stagnation, and they just pretend to be great on the outside, and on the inside they're dying inside. So when it comes down to it, most people who are in that debunking kind of methodology are the ones who don't trust themselves, the ones who are really struggling with the way their life is, and they feel that they need to make other people wrong so that they could be right. It's just a different form of bullying, in my opinion.
And it's an unconscious thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I got my opinions on this, why this happens. Right. And it's pieces of it are it's fear. They don't know why they believe what they believe. And so they can't afford to be challenged on it because they don't have an answer.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
And how do you keep people from challenging you? You intimidate.
Absolutely.
It's that or you go hide. But.
Yeah, that too. And that happens a lot. I walked into, I was on a nature hike one day after I left the gym, and I ran into this beautiful lady who I ran into a couple times, and she saw me doing a video. And of course I was talking about quantum consciousness and, personal responsibility. And so she actually opened up dialogue with me. And so she wanted to know what I was doing and what I was talking about, what I do in life. And so I explained to her, and immediately she kind of took a step back because she was a Christian pastor, and she didn't want to have the conversation about anything that would potentially question her belief system. And I said, you know what, this is really awesome, because I would love to bring together a member of all different religions and just sit down and have a dialogue. I would love to be able to have everyone learn from all the religions. And she said to me, if you want to know more about Jesus and you have questions about the Bible, I would be happy to talk with you. And I was like, okay, that's just a shut door right there, Yep. And I used to be that. I mean, I used to be one of those extremely combative. My way is the only way. I would never talk to people about abortion or religion, because it was just easier for me to just not have to deal with that argument, because I always assumed I would have an argument. And I got to the realization that everybody literally, like, the universe is so vast, and because all potential realities exist, your universe and your universe are going to be different than mine. And whatever I'm creating is exactly whatever it is that I need to fulfill my spiritual curriculum. And I'm going to give you the same permission as I would give to myself. Why would I judge? Like, there's no point in judging anymore, So, yeah.
It is interesting, though. I've seen, I'm not a religious person. But the last couple of times that I was in a Catholic church for a couple of different reasons, both priests were talking about things that were very Abraham Hicks-ish, very law of attraction based. It was really interesting to hear. And it was not, so they seem to be much more, I don't know, much more in tune with like reality, really, and not so locked into what was written, 1,500 years ago by somebody who didn't have the internet to go to.
Yeah, of course. But it's scary, though. I mean, as we talked about earlier, with the idea of as soon as somebody sees that power can be taken, then they create some sort of ideology, some dogma that everybody buys into. When The Secret first came out, I was handing out copies to all of my clients. Right? I had already seen What the Bleep. So to me, What the Bleep was like way bigger and way better than The Secret, but The Secret was digestible for people at that time. So I was handing out books right and left. And I had a few of my clients who were going to one of this, and this is not so please don't understand anyone who's listening to this. It's not me taking a jab at the Christian religion by any stretch of the imagination. But this particular church was doing actual courses about how the law of attraction is not real and why you should never practice it, and it is basically Satan. And during that time I was a little offended, and I thought, man, well that just kind of sucks. That's another reason why I love comparing religions and doing this study, because if you go into, say, the Aramaic version of the Bible, you understand that Jesus was actually talking about the 7 chakras when he talked about the 7 heavens. Right? The lost books from the Bible actually talk about our spiritual powers, right? In the Hindu, they're called Shaktis. So these powers that we have, his relationship with Mary Magdalene was an alchemical relationship. She wasn't a hooker, right? It was alchemy. And those books were conveniently lost so that we didn't understand our power. So, it goes back. It's like, you've got to, if you decide that something in life is not working for you, you have to get back to the fundamental core of your foundational principles. How are you defining your life? In what structure? Like a scientific experiment. If a scientific experiment says that dairy is good, you're going to create the experiment to prove that dairy is good, right? If your experiment says that law of attraction is the devil, then you're going to look for everything that's going to validate your belief system, right? If you believe money is the root of all evil, you're going to look for all those experiences to prove and to validate that point. So it's really super important that we understand that when any sort of change is sparked within us, we have to be willing to question everything, not just the things that we think relate to it, but everything that we believe.
I'm working on a belief that no matter what you put in your body, you can manifest, health and fitness. Well, because why not? It's supposed to be our power, right?
Either that, or why would you need food to begin with?
That too. Yeah. Yeah.
And we've come a long way. I mean, from running after wild animals to eating processed foods. Definitely, I think processed foods are better than raw meat. Don't you think?
That's an interesting trade-off.
I mean, he's completely lost his caveman roots. All of that,
we went on a cruise, and I mean, I don't know what they do differently on the cruise, but bacon that they served there was just amazing. It was crispy, nicely prepared, and of course there are many other choices, but I felt like, wow, I've tried everything else, and it kind of like mediocre. Bacon is great, and so I would like load up on bacon and just put a little piece of melon. And that continued like for maybe 7 or 8 days, And so my wife was like, Mike, what are you doing? I mean, you are going to be, that cruise is going to be like maybe 20 pounds more of Gabi at the end of this. Nothing happened. And you know what? Because I was already equipped with Abraham's teachings, right? Mm-hmm. I totally enjoyed every little piece of it. Yeah. And I knew it was doing great things to my body, and it was all being converted into unbelievable energy for me,
I honestly, it's fun to joke about, but I believe that's the reality. It doesn't matter what goes in your mouth necessarily.
Yeah.
It's what you believe it's going to do to you.
My
That has more power than, you know.
It's a very sophisticated food processing factory. She said, remember, there's a very interesting that is able to extract all the nutrients that your body needs from that.
Yeah.
So
I think the challenge that I have seen is that food carries a vibrational frequency. And it's a lot easier to be able to take in food that has a higher vibrational frequency than it is to consistently have to convince ourselves that this food is healthy. Right? So we're expelling or expending a little less energy by actually consuming food that has a vibration.
I didn't have to convince myself.
Another of my bubbles is popping. I love this stuff, man, because there's so it never gets old.
Nope.
You know, and you can have so much fun with these ideas.
So that's one thing, you know, whenever, like in the morning, I usually take, the first thing I do is I pour water, alkaline water, delicious water, full glass of water, and I drink it, and I have this meditation how this water is nourishing me and how it's hydrating my body, and all the cells are receiving it and saying, thank you, you know, for this wonderful gift, you know. Whatever, and I'm so enjoying this ritual. I'm telling you, we had this morning rituals. Remember that podcast with the guy? Yeah. Morning rituals, and I told him, no, I'm against all the rituals. But then I realized I do have one. You know, so yeah, it's what the vibration that you put into that, the thought, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this stuff is the same. It's the same mechanics that makes placebos work, right? We believe it's going to do something, and so it does do something.
Yep.
Or we believe it won't, and so it won't. Doesn't matter whether it's the real thing or not. You know, Joe Dispenza, I think, does such a great job of presenting this stuff. Makes it very understandable for the layman, and you know, it helps you. I love anything that helps me wrap my mind around some of these ideas. And I loved Wayne Dyer, but you know, he got so far out on his journey, and he tried to bring his audience with him, and people were just like, what is he talking about? You know, and I couldn't go there with him either.
Where did he go that you didn't feel you could go?
He just got really deep into he got more woo-woo than I could identify with. I'm a blue collar guy, and I understand it, but I can't connect to it. So and so I don't denigrate anybody else's belief in how things work or how they want to phrase things, but you know, it's like Tony Robbins versus Eckhart Tolle. They could be talking about the same things, and you're going to resonate with one style and not the other.
Very true.
And they're both right? But that was all. He kind of, his early stuff I really loved, but it was more, I don't know if he hadn't got into law of attraction at that point. It was, you know, your erroneous zones and pulling your own strings was the big one for me. But just with time, you know, it was his journey as he got really into all these things, and he had the time and the energy and things and the focus to really dig into all of these ancient writings and things, and could quote them all, you know. And he just went places that a lot of people just couldn't follow him. My opinion.
Makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Now he's dead.
Or is he?
Yeah, or is he? Exactly. Last thing that I want to ask about, although we can go as long as we need here, but your statement here, quantum consciousness is our truth, not this limited mind we pretend to identify with. And we've been kind of talking about this stuff anyway, but can you give people a definition of quantum consciousness?
Yeah, absolutely. So quantum consciousness is basically infinite intelligence. It's the fabric of creation. So I had a near-death experience in 2012. And when I crossed over, I saw the grid of consciousness. And the voice that guided me while I was there basically said, I want you to see this because you need to go back and teach other people about this. Mm-hmm. So have you ever seen the movie Tron?
Sure.
Okay. So you know how like they were writing on what looked like a grid?
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what I saw. It was all black and there were just these lines going across, and any intention, any thought manifested a form on this grid. And so what God or source or consciousness, whatever you want to call it, was showing me was that every tiny little thing matters, right? Even the way you see a water bottle or you look at your phone, the belief that you have about it, the relationship that you have with it creates the reality that you experience. So because we are in human form, we tend to believe and we are taught that we are only human. And we experience the world through these 5 senses. And so I'm looking at you through these human eyes. But in reality, we are both God looking at each other through different mirrors. And most of us are so quick to communicate by ego, basically my identity. I'm going to communicate with your identity. I'm going to scan you and determine who I think you are. And I'm going to talk to you based on who I think you are. And if you trigger anybody that I've met that reminds me of you, then I'm going to start treating you the way I treated that person and the experience that I had with that person. So now I'm talking ego to ego. But if we take that out and I say, well, I'm quantum consciousness, I'm infinite intelligence, I am God, I am source consciousness, looking through this human form and playing the role of Alida. And I'm looking at you, but I'm looking through you to see God, source consciousness, looking back at me through the eyes of another human being. The way I communicate with you, the way I relate to you, the way I identify with you is going to change drastically. And this is what I think a lot of people can benefit from, is when we stop looking to communicate with each other based on the judgments and the definitions and the roles and the labels, and we start understanding that we are all infinite intelligence just looking through these tiny limited eyes. Then we understand that every little thought that we allow our brain to think, or we allow ourselves to entertain, or the thoughts that we cherish, the habits that we cherish that are holding us back, all of these things are preventing us from understanding what it feels like to be the embodiment, to be the vessel for that infinite intelligence that is able to create and manifest great things.
Great answer.
Thank you.
I think this stuff it's a double-edged sword. It's really exciting to get that, you have the power to create whatever the hell you want to create.
Yeah.
No questions asked. There's no argument. The other side of that is you're going to create, like it or not, everything you think about, you're creating now. So you got this responsibility and I think that's a piece, unconscious piece of why a lot of people resist buying into these things, because that responsibility component, we don't want to be responsible for screwing up our lives. We want to be able to blame other people for it, or just the world in general, right? I'm a victim and this just happened to me. So there's 2 sides to that, but if you can focus a little more on the what if side and the potential side and get excited about that, then you can, it's a little easier to forget about worrying about the other stuff.
I like the urgency, like the responsibility point that you're making, Tim, right? That you're creating now.
Yep.
Every moment you're creating, right? I recall going over some interesting work by this guy. I think he wrote a very interesting book, but I like by accident I picked it up at the library, like as an audiobook. It's called, and I wouldn't tell you who the author was, but the title was "Thoughts Are Things. Choose Them Wisely." Right? Amazing book. And you know what? And every moment you are creating, whether you realize it or not, right? And so then when that realization happened, right? And that happened already with Abraham, I guess, right? Suddenly I had this sense of really like responsibility not to cause any more trouble in my life by jeopardizing my creation and letting some kind of program ruin it for me in the future, because I knew once you put it in the vortex, it's there, it's going to materialize. And so now, you know, it's an interesting point. Once you start sorting out and, you know, choosing happiness and choosing positivity and choosing creating the reality that you want, right, and not reacting, right, then sooner or later, the balance of all these things that you put into your vortex will run out, will exhaust itself, and only good things will start manifesting in your reality, right? Isn't that an exciting, like, thing to sell to? I mean, yeah, like to tell people who come to you as patients, right? Just do this and see what happens, right? Don't trust me, you know. Just look. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not everybody's ready to receive that message. It's really interesting because I think what I see for most people when they first want to create change, I can give them that answer, but that actually almost fries their brain because they're in such a state of either victimhood or it's not even a combative victimhood. It's more the case of learned helplessness. I failed so many times that I really truly believe that I'm helpless. So, you know, for me, I could share that with them. But on the flip side, what I have to show them is more the case of the logistical side of it. It's like, look, if this and that, go approach your partner in a different way. Go do this and see what outcome you get. And when they do that, then I can give them that explanation, that big explanation. But I can't do it until they experience it, which is amazing, because then I can say, this is what happens and this is how the universe works. And then it makes sense, you know, because their brain has now experienced it. Their identity is now shifted because they're like, wait a second, all I have to do is change how I show up. Like, I can take responsibility for the outcome of this situation and things are going to change. Like, okay, wait a second, that was too easy. What's wrong with me? And then they start to question, you know, why was it too easy? That's too good to be true. And then I start explaining, this is how it works.
You know, you're making such a great point. I recall that back, you know, a long time ago when I joined the Kabbalah 1 course. You also had some exposure, right? Yeah. Kabbalah 1 course, one of the first things that they teach you, right, is not to react. Right? So you have your natural reaction, pause. Do not immediately be carried away by your natural reaction, you know, that your ego wants to do something there. And they don't go any further than that. It's like, just practice that. Just practice pausing and not immediately reacting to it, right? And even that was very difficult. Even that was like requiring a lot of energy to just, you know, being in control of your reaction, not just once and twice or 3 times, but every time, you know. And I remember we were like going and practicing it for a week and coming back. You know?
Well, that's that goal of being the observer of what's going on as you're participating in what's going on, right?
Yes,
and it's so hard to do.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I was at a workshop a while back, and one of the guys was explaining, because it was a movement workshop, and he was saying, if you're not able to get into this particular situation or this particular posture, you're not even ready for yoga. And I thought, well, man, I know plenty of people who cannot get into this position, just seated with back up straight, your spine literally straight, it's not hunched in, your hips are not tilted under, and your legs are just pointed out straight. And so many people had that, like, they were just kind of hunched over because they didn't have the flexibility in their hips and their hamstrings. And he said, if you cannot do this posture, you're not even ready for yoga. And I thought, man, there's so many things in life that people jump into that they haven't done the work to prepare themselves for. How does that apply to goals? How does that apply to spiritual practices, personal growth, you know, and all these kind of things? And it really, really reshaped how I saw goal setting, how I saw manifesting, because I started thinking, you know, what are the processes that I had to take that prepared me for the steps that I took, right? Like, I didn't study Kabbalah until probably like 4 years ago, right? And so all the years that I was studying comparative religions, it took me that long to jump into that, you know, to be ready for it. So I think a lot of times we tend to discount the process of readiness And when we have that process of readiness and we know that this is what we're getting ready for, it makes it a little bit easier to take that first step of whatever that practice is that we're doing.
Well, you know, Abraham Lincoln is supposed to have said that, you know, if he was given the task of chopping down a tree inside of an hour, he'd spend the first 50 minutes sharpening his axe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true.
That's a good point, yeah. So you also
we're solving all the world's problems right now.
Yeah.
All of them.
Oh, every one. Gabi, did you have something there?
Yeah. Tim, when you introduced Alida, you said that you were also into Abraham's teachings, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you stumble upon those teachings? Was it a recent thing, or was it for a while now?
No, it's been for a while.
Or was that with Secret that you got exposure to?
It was actually before The Secret.
Oh,
it was actually before The Secret. Around the same. No, actually, it was before. So during 2003. I was really rethinking my entire life. I was in a marriage that I was unhappy with. I had the summer to basically just figure myself out. And because I was laid off for the summer, I was a chef, fine dining.
That's plenty of time. Just the summer.
I know, it's plenty. The whole summer, let me tell you. And so I did a ton of reading, a ton of researching. I did a lot of reading with Alan Watts, was my very first, and that really opened up my reality. And Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention, and the book, The Law of Attraction, because I had, for some reason, stumbled upon that book. Something told me I needed to get that book when I was in the bookstore. So I read all three of them in a matter of a week, and it completely just popped my brain open. And, you know, I've been studying Abraham for many years now, because there were so many things that were just practically just like, it's almost like, you know, like when you hear something, you're like, duh. Like that's how I felt with all the Abraham teachings. And so from a very, very early point, it really, it's been a part of my life for sure. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Are you in any kind of Abraham group or anything like that?
No, I have Facebook groups that I belong to, but I don't really participate in many of them because everybody keeps adding me into them. And then before you know it, you're in like hundreds of groups and you don't know which one's which. So
yeah.
We are enjoying our group. We have a meetup with that one.
That's awesome.
That's how I met with Team, actually. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
very nice.
True.
Yeah, we're going to be starting some workshops, actually, starting on the 29th at our gym in Newport Beach. So our workshops are going to be focused around vulnerability, spiritual growth, personal development. So we're going to be doing workshops starting on the 29th on a monthly basis.
Yeah, talk about what you're getting into, and then, you know, what can people give everybody your contact info, where to find you, and all that good stuff.
Okay, awesome.
I feel like we're running towards the end here.
Yeah. Okay. So I co-own a gym with my fiance. It's a holistic wellness center, actually, and we are a network of holistic care providers. So under one roof, we have a personal training facility, boxing, kickboxing. We do yoga, Pilates. We also have a chiropractor, massage therapist. We do nutritional coaching, mindfulness coaching, as well as Reiki. In our gym, we also do fight nights, which is actually pretty cool because all of our boxers when I'm there and at the end of their class, they all stop and meditate, which is a lot of fun. So we do fight nights where they all practice all their skills and show them off to the crowds. But in the spiritual side, I do workshops. And so starting on the 29th, we're doing a monthly series. This one's called Vulnerability is Power. And it's really opening up the dialogue for men and women to start communicating on a deeper level, to stop fearing being seen, and to start getting comfortable with the things that they're hiding from that are inside those skeletons in their closet. Really start getting comfortable with them, help them to understand why they've experienced these things, and bring them to a place of understanding that it's not the thing that defined them, but their perception of that thing, of that experience. So we're really working to expand on that a lot more. Coming into 2018, our network is going to be expanding across Southern California as we open up to more holistic providers, coaches, chiropractors, things like that. And really just expanding more as a kind of like a community for people who are really on board with this consciousness movement. So people can find me on ambassadorforgoodness.com. That's my main website. We also have mindsoulfit.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I'm pretty much everywhere you can find that. And then in 2018, I'll be launching a podcast called Alpha, Mind, Zen, Heart, and also my cooking show called Eat, Glow, Rise.
You gotta find a way to get out into the world a little more and do some things.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Jeez.
Just a little bit.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm not doing half of the things that you're doing.
Oh, I'm 10%, man.
It's okay. We're all on our own journey, right?
Yeah. Well, I cannot tell you how much fun this has been. I'm not even asking. I'm telling you, you're coming back.
You got it.
Because this is good. We've got lots more stuff that we can dig into, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So, Gabi, unless you got another pressing question, has to be answered right now. I think we're going to wrap it.
Yeah, just one question to wrap it up. If you went to a movie with a friend, right, and it was a lousy movie, but that's a good friend. But would you leave?
If it was a good friend and I knew it was going to be a lousy movie going in, I would take
you didn't know that. No.
I didn't know?
No, you're here. It's a lousy movie. You're not enjoying this movie. But you went with a friend, and now
your friend is enjoying it?
Yeah. You don't know that. It's a dark
okay.
movie,
I would ask the friend if they're enjoying it. And if not, I would offer to go get ice cream or drinks or something, something more enjoyable that would bring us both joy. But if my friend was enjoying it and I agreed to hang out with them, then I would be there for them, not for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's only an hour and a half, right?
I know, right? God forbid it's one of those 3-hour movies, but
man. Ben-Hur. Yeah.
Hey, that's been a lot of fun, interesting evening, and a wonderful conversation, and really nice meeting you. And best of luck to you in all your beginnings in 2018.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that.
Thank you. Look forward to meeting in person at some point, too.
Definitely, very soon.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone out there, for tuning in.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around.